There's one Bible verse that many pastors skip, and they do so dishonestly. I'm going to tell you what that verse is, and I'm going to tell you why they skip it. It relates to finances. Have you ever realized how much churches talk about money these days, especially the mega churches, and they talk about giving money to the church? I've even heard pastors say that your financial giving to the church is an investment, that when you sow financially into the kingdom, which they equate with giving to the church, that you will reap a financial harvest 30, 60, 100-fold, that God will bless your finances. He will make your finances run over. He will open the heavens. That this is all part of God's spiritual laws, that when you give, He will bless you financially. And one thing I actually see is these pastors actually twisting verses, using passages that relate to tithing, which was an Old Testament concept, not a New Testament precept, and apply that to people giving to the church. And what does a lot of the money go to? Especially in these bigger churches, you often see the pastor gets an enormous salary. There's a large staff, which is completely unnecessary. It's just wastage. They have a huge building that has big operating costs. There's expensive equipment, visual, audio, all of these things to put on a show. You don't see any of this stuff in the Bible. What do you see in the Bible? In the Bible, you see giving to the poor, giving to those people who are lacking. But in these churches, you see the poor and the people that are lacking being told that if they give to these rich churches, that they're going to be blessed financially. It's completely backwards. If we have a look at a few verses here about giving in the Bible, in Galatians 2:10, it says, "Only that they asked us to remember the poor, the very thing I was eager to do." Romans 15:26, "For Macedonia and Achaia have been pleased to make some contribution for the poor among the saints at Jerusalem." And 1 Corinthians 16:1, "Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I directed the churches of Galatia, you also are to do." So these people were encouraged to give to the poor, including the poor amongst them, the poor believers, very different to what we see in the churches today. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to give to the local churches. If the church is a good steward of God's money and it's using God's money well to do its mission and to minister to the needs and to reach the poor and to help those people, I'm not saying that at all, but a number of these churches are completely misusing funds in a way that is completely unbiblical and is the opposite of what is biblical. So I want to get to this verse that pastors skip now. If you've got a pastor reading out a verse, reading out a passage, and he stops at a particular verse because he doesn't like what it says, it doesn't fit the context of what he's trying to say, that's a bad thing. That's a dishonest thing. But it goes to a whole another level when a pastor is actually reading a passage and they actually skip a verse in the middle of the passage to try to make the passage about something that it's not. That is complete deception, and I've seen this multiple times happen. So we're going to have a look about this verse about giving, this passage here. It's in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. So we start at verse 6. "The point is this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work." Now I'm going to skip this particular verse and we're going to come back to it. So we skip the verse. The next one is, "He who supplies the seed to the sower and the bread for food will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way to be generous in every way." So this makes it sound like if you give to the church, God will bless and multiply your finances. But here's the verse they've missed. It's verse 9. It says, "As it is written, he has distributed freely, he has given to the poor, his righteousness endures forever." This verse isn't about giving to a church, it is about giving to the poor. And the pastors leave this out. The pastors don't want people giving their money to the poor. They want the poor to give their money to these rich churches. Now, as I said, If your local church is a good church and is a good steward of finances, it's doing a good work, it's using these finances to bless people in the community, to help the poor, all of those things, then it's a great thing to support your local church. But if you see pastors twisting verses like this and using funds in the way that I mentioned before, then I would say run and get out of there, because all they are doing is building their own kingdom and making themselves rich, often at the expense of those who can least afford it. Would love to get your comments. Leave them below. Talk to you soon. God bless you, friends.